Hi, this is Simon Catan, and this is my third video in my series of videos teaching command line skills to support my game Adventures in Wonderland. Now, in this video, what we're going to be looking at is ways to use the command line to search for files by name, by file type, by when they were modified, by their size, or even by the contents of those files. So let's get started. I have created a folder to give us something to practice on. I've called it a messy folder, and it is indeed very messy. You'll see it has lots of files which have random names, and there are many subdirectories, and inside the subdirectories are subdirectories again. So it's a very complicated file system, probably more complicated than you are likely to make yourself. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you is a really helpful technique for making your commands easier to type and also for searching for files, and the technique is called wildcards. So to do this, I'm going to cd into my messy folder. And I'm going to list all the files using the tool ls, which you should be familiar with by now. And here you can see all the files. Now, I want you to imagine a scenario where I'm only interested in looking at the files that have the extension .txt. So I could kind of try and look through like this and see the files that have the extension, but that's quite tricky when there's so many files. So a wildcard can really help here. So what I do is I type ls and then I use a wildcard, and the wildcard is denoted by an asterisk. And what this wildcard is saying is that anything will do here, any letter or character and any number of them. So at the moment I'm saying list a file with any name, and that would effectively list all the files. But I want to be a little bit more specific. I want to say list a file with any name, but make sure the extension is .txt. So if I do this, you'll see now I have just a list of the txt files in the directory. So it might go the other way around. I might only be interested in files that begin with the letter A. So I could say list A for files that begin with the letter A, and star to show that I don't care about the rest of the name. And here you can see I've now produced a list of files with the letter A. You might notice this bit as well, and this is a little bit confusing. So here I've listed a directory with that begins with the letter A, and underneath you can see that it's listed all the files and any directories within that directory. But what's interesting here is that it hasn't applied this rule. These ones don't begin with the letter A. This is a key limitation of this technique in combination with ls, and I'll get onto that a bit more later. Okay, so maybe what I really care about are files that begin with the letter A that end with the extension txt. So I could do that with my wildcard. I could go A star, but specify that the end must begin the extension must be .txt. And now you can see there's only a few files. So if I was searching for a particular file, you could see how you could narrow down your search quite quickly with this technique. Now I'll show you quickly that we can even use more than one wildcard. So maybe I really care whether the file ends with the letter N as well. So I could go, I knew that this file I was looking for somehow started A, it was something something N .txt. And you could see that now only, oops, sorry, I nearly did this, I forgot to use the ls. Now you can see that only one file is listed. So this is a pretty useful technique. The other thing that's quite good with this technique is we can use it to kind of do what I would call lazy typing. So say there's that file applejohn .txt. I'll just show it again. And I want to open it with less and read what's inside. I could type less, and I can't be bothered to type the whole file name, so I just go app. Maybe I just type app star, and I know that in my directory there isn't going to be anything else that's called app star, so that's going to work fine. And there you can see that I've opened the file. I could also use it to cd into a directory. So I think if I remember rightly, there was a file of directory called traduce. So I'm going to list that I'm going to cd into that directory by going cd trad star. And there you can see I'm inside the directory called traduce, and I haven't had to bother to type the whole name. Okay, I'll cd back to the top level. Another thing we can do with wildcards is use them just to list the directories. So the symbol for a directory is the /. So what I can do is I can say ls star, because I don't care about the name, /. And now I'm just listing the directories that are antithesis and traduce. And maybe only I want to list the directories that begin with T. I could do that as well. I could go ls t star /. And now I've just listed, in fact, what I've done here is listed the contents of traduce. Okay, so those are wildcards. I want to show you some options that you can do with ls now. And before I go launch into showing you those options, I want to show you why it is that I'm able to find out these options. I'm going to use the command man. So pretty much every command line tool has a man entry, at least the main ones do, and you can access it by typing man and the name of the command. So man stands for manual, by the way. So I'm going to do this, and you'll see that it opens a file in less, and it's just a text file. And they normally follow this format. So the important part here is the bit that says synopsis. And this can look a little bit daunting, but don't worry. Here is the name of the command. Here is all the possible options that we might use. Now, the chances that we'd use all of them together like this are practically nil, but it just shows us all the different letters and symbols that denote options. And then in this case, it shows us that we can also specify a file or a directory. Okay. There'll be, for different commands, you'll find different synopses. So sometimes they'll need more than one bit of information, or there'll be different types of options and so on. So here we've got this list of options, and you can see that they're all described down here. So let's look at ones that we've already learned. We learned -A, which is the one that shows you all the hidden entries. Okay, so it says include directory entries whose name begin with a dot. So those are the hidden ones. And we had L, which was list things in long format. I'm going to show you another one now, quite a nice one, a capital G, which enables the color mode, and that can be quite helpful just for picking things out at sight. I would say that if you find that any of these options don't work on your system, check your man entry, because depending on whether you're on a Windows machine, a Linux machine, or a Mac, or different versions, you might find that these options are slightly different. So let's get out of this and try this. So I'm going to do ls-g, and you can see now that helpfully our directories are listed in a different color, which just allows us to pick them out really easily. The other thing to say about these options is that they can be combined together. So for example, I might go ls-g-l. So now I'm saying I want things to be colored in this way, but I also want them printed in the long format. And if I do that, I get this. And you can see it's now combined these two options, and I can see somewhere my directory is labeled in blue. So the other thing to say about how this is done is actually, so I did it like this, but the common way to do it is just to combine them into a single list, like a shorthand. So you don't need to put a dash every time. So now we've combined them together and we get exactly the same result. Okay, so let's try some other methods. So one thing you'll know that you can do in Finder or Windows Explorer is you can sort the files by different methods. So one way we can do it is by the date or time that the file was modified. So I'm going to click here and let's see, it says that this folder was the last thing that was modified. I'm going to do something just to make a file be modified more recently. Let's choose Applejohn, seeing as we've done that. I'm going to open this one and I was modified just now. So I'm just adding some text to modify the file. And so if I go here now, you'll see that it's now at the top of the list. Okay. So now I'm going to show you the option here. So we'll look in the documentation, man ls. And if I scroll all the way down, you'll see that there is an option with a lowercase t and it says sort by time modified. And that's the one we want to use. So I'm going to go ls-t. And we should see Applejohn now at the beginning, which it is, and you can see that other things are then afterwards. Now, this column view might be a bit confusing for this purposes. So I might want all the files just to be listed in a single list. And I can do that by going ls-t 1. So -1 is an option that says one column. And now you can see, whoops, that Applejohn is definitely at the top and we've got a time ordered list. Another thing I can do is I can reverse that list by putting R. And now you can see that the first thing to be modified is at the top and right at the bottom is Applejohn, which was the last thing to be modified. So -R can be used with anything in that manner. So another way we might want to order our files is by size. And so here you can see the smallest file is at the bottom, is at the top here in my window, and the smallest are at the bottom. So let's, just to make things interesting, find a larger file. I've got these photos I took in my garden. I am particularly proud of my potatoes, if I can find my potatoes. Oh, no. Oh, I've lost my potatoes. Okay. I'm also particularly proud of my courgettes. You can see them here. So in my downloads folder, I'm going to rename this courgettes. And I'm going to put them inside my messy folder. Good, they're there. And we should see now courgettes at the top, much bigger. So I'm going to go ls. So the one to show file size, see if I can get this right. I think I'm going to have to check the documentation. I can't remember. Let's have a quick look. It's either a small s or a large s. I think it is the large S. So I'm going to go ls-s. I want them in a single column, one, and the biggest one first. Let's see if this does the biggest one first. Actually, I'll clear the screen. I'll just do it one more time. Go up to the top. Indeed, courgettes is at the top. Now, imagine you're cleaning out your hard drive. You want to see what is the biggest file. You might also want to see how big it is, see how much of a problem it is in terms of size. If you use the small s option, it actually lists the file size. And now you can see all of these files have no size at all. And as we go to the top, you can see some of them just have a size of 8, so they've got something in. But this one has a size of 1280. It's much bigger. Now you might be wondering what these numbers are. They are apparently block sizes, and there are units of 512 bytes. That's kind of a weird size to measure things in. So there's another option that you can specify, which is K. So if you do S together with K, K stands for kilobytes, and it lists them in kilobytes, which I personally find much more useful. I can understand that. And now we can see we've got these are 4K, each of these files, and this is 640K. Okay, that is another tool. I think I've got one more left to show you here. And that is the R option. So ls-R means list this directory recursively. So what it means is it finds any subdirectory and lists that, and any subdirectory of that subdirectory and lists that, and it does it all the way down until it can't find any more subdirectories. So it's a way of listing a whole folder tree. So I'm going to do that, and you can see now we've got all the subdirectories, everything is listed here. Now, actually, I find this of limited use, and one of the reasons is that, say I apply a filter to this, so say I'm only interested in recursively listing the JPEG files, you'll see that there's a bit of a problem. And you'll see that I don't get the subdirectories. And this is because it kind of does the command in a process where, well, because I used the filter star.jpg, it didn't find the directories in the first place, so it can't do it. It can't then filter. And so it's quite limited in the way that we can apply filters. And for this reason, there exists a tool that I'm going to show you next, which is called find. So find is specifically designed for doing recursive searches. You can again find documentation by typing man find, and you'll find all of this stuff. I'll just explain the synopsis for you. So there are options here, and a thing called an expression. So the main thing to know is that you need to use find, and you need to specify the path. The path is the current directory that the directory that it starts searching from, and then the expression is the thing that it's going to use to do that search. So you can see here there are lots of different options for using expressions, and you can see it sort of uses a different format because we have some things with long words as well. It's a quite more complicated tool, yeah, you can see there's a lot of stuff. So I'm just going to show you a simple option to do some recursive searching. So let's find a file that we would want to search for. So I'm going to just do this way. So I'm going to look in the subdirectory, and there's a subdirectory in here. There's a subdirectory in here. We are going to look for myometrial. Okay. So I'm going to go find. I specify the path. That's the current directory, and now I'm going to write an expression. And the simplest and perhaps most useful expression is -name. Okay, and in -name, I put in quote marks the name of the file I'm looking for, myometrial, and then it shows me the path from the directory specified here to that file. Okay. We can also use wildcards here, so I can do the same thing. I knew it began with myo, can't remember what else is in the file name, and you can see there, but it's found the file. Maybe I want to list all the files that begin with M in all the directories, and now you can see I've done that. I've listed all the files with M. I want to list all the text files, star.txt, and now you can see I've listed all the text files. Okay, so I want to show you probably one more thing with find. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to search for files by size. I'm just going to go to the entry here. And you can see that we can specify a size. And again, it works in these blocks. But we can specify size in whatever unit we want. So we've got kilobytes, megabytes, gigabytes, terabytes, petabytes, if we put a letter afterwards. It doesn't say it here, but if I, well, I'll show you in a moment how we can do this to kind of make a filter to find files bigger than a certain amount. So I know I'm going to go like this. I'm going to say find dot dash size, and I'm going to use the plus symbol to say bigger than. And let's start with saying any file that is bigger than 1 block. And you'll see that we get lots of files here, so including some hidden files like DS store that we don't normally think about. And we can see our courgettes file, which is very big there compared to the other ones. So maybe now what we want to do is we want to specify our search a bit better. I want to see any file that's bigger than 8K, and that should narrow down our list quite considerably. And now you can see that there's just a couple of these DS store files, and maybe if I said, okay, anything bigger than 24K, and you can see now I see that courgettes is the biggest file in that whole system of files. So you could imagine this is a really good way to root out big files on your hard drive really quickly. You could just look for all files that are bigger than 1 gigabyte, and you could then start removing those files to clean up your hard drive. So that's a useful thing you can do right away. Okay, so far we've been dealing with things such as external details of files. We've been dealing with their size, we've been dealing with when they were modified, and their names. Now I want to deal with the internals of a file, to deal with its contents. And for that, we're going to need to use a different tool. The tool is called grep, and it's a really well-known one. So I'm going to show you the man entry again. And you'll see that, again, there are lots and lots of different options you can do. And in this case, it's slightly different from find. We put the options first. There's all of this stuff, and most of this stuff you're not going to use, so you don't need to worry. But at the end, you can see we need to write a search pattern, and eventually we need to specify a file or list of files to be searched. So in my directory, I seem to remember I added some text to a file. Let's have a look. ls-t, what did I last modify? It was applejohn.txt. So if I just look at that, yep, I was modified just now. So what we could do is we could use grep to search the directory for things that had been modified. So in fact, let's start with this. I'm going to search for the word modified in the file applejohn.txt, and you see what it puts out is the actual line. Okay, so it's a line of text. So you imagine if you want to search, you could use grep to search a single file for a specific word or line of text, and it will show you whether that word is in there or not. But now I want you to imagine that instead of searching just one file, that we want to search all the text files to see if there is the word modified in them. So instead of putting applejohn.txt, I'm going to put star.txt, which will give me all the text files in the current directory. And now it tells me, yes, I've found the search term, and it's in the file applejohn.txt. So that's pretty useful. Now, say I wanted a longer search term, I could put I was modified for example. So now it will look for that, and I just put it in quote marks to specify that whole term. And now you can see it still finds the same thing because I was modified. If I change this now, if I was modified and I put OK, it won't match anymore. And you'll see now I get no output back because it didn't find a match. Okay, so I think I've done another thing here which can help us with our search. So I'll just go back up to the main directory, messy folder. I think in every file that didn't have an extension, I wrote something. Let me see. So here's one, Turgent. No, it's empty. Did I put something here? No, I didn't. Okay. I tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a random file instead. Let's see. I'm going to go right deep. There's no file in there. I'm going to take this file, multi-homer, and I'm going to edit this file. And I'm going to write in here, Simon is great. And I'm going to save it. Okay, so I'm going to look for this text, Simon is great. Now, if I just do this, grep, Simon is great, star.txt. So I search every file for Simon is great. You'll see it comes up with a blank. And the reason is because this is in a subdirectory. So like ls, grep has a flag, an option for recursive, which is -r. So if I try this now, Simon is great, star.txt. Oh, it didn't work. That's interesting. Maybe I need to just go, yes, I see why. Because we're not searching the subdirectories that way. We only end up just searching .txt files. So it kind of has that same limitation that ls has. But if I just put star, it will search everything. And there you can see it's found it. It's found this text in the subdirectory, traduce, suitcase, tongue-like. And there it is in the file, multi-homer. Okay, so that's to do how to use some find and replace tools. Sorry, some find tools and how to search inside files. But another thing that you might want to do is actually move and copy files. And I'm going to show you a little bit of how to do that now. So say, for example, I took this file and I wanted to move it up to the current directory, a messy folder. I could use the command mv, which stands for move. So move is pretty simple. I just take the source file and I put the path to the source file, and then I put the path to where I want to move it to. And if I just put dot, that means the current directory. And if I don't specify anything else, the whole file will be moved and it will have the same name. So I'm going to do that now. And if I do, well, we could do find dash, find in the current directory dash name. I'm just going to put multi because I don't think there's any other multis. Oh, it turns out there was. But look, you can see in the current directory, there was only multi-homer. So that's where we would expect it to be. Now, another thing I can do is I can move a file and change the name. So let's have a look at another file that we might move. Let's move the one called moped. So I'm going to find that file first of all. Find .-name moped. And I'm going to move it, but I'm going to change it to moped new. So I'm going to move it to the current directory and I'll put it moped, call it moped new. So now I've specified the name as well. And if I do find .-name moped, I'll put a star at the end. I can now see in the current directory there's a file called moped new. We don't even need to move a file with MV. We can just change its name. So if I take a file in the current directory, let's look there. Volcanoes. I'm going to move volcanoes.txt to volcanoes new.txt. And now you'll see that the folder gets renamed. Another thing I can do is I could select a whole bunch of files by their extension, and I could move them to another directory. So let's make a new directory, and I'll call this directory PNGs. And I'm going to go mv star.png. So anything that's got a PNG extension to the folder PNGs. And now, if I look here, well, I could do ls PNGs, and you'll see that all my PNGs have now been sorted into a folder called PNGs. So you can see this is a pretty powerful tool. It's going to save you quite a lot of time. Another tool that is really, really similar is called copy or CP, like this. And I'll show you what it does. It's pretty obvious probably already. I'm going to make a new directory. Let's do the same thing. I'm going to make a new directory called JPEGs. So JPGs. And I'm going to copy everything that has the extension JPG to JPGs. And now if I do ls-jpgs, you can see that I've sorted all my JPEGs into a folder. One little thing that I should point out with copy is that you need to use a recursive flag if you want to copy a directory. So say, for example, let's look for a subdirectory that we might want to copy. Let's look inside this one. Okay, there's one called handed. So if I want to copy antithesis/handed to the top level directory, you'll see it says antithesis/handed is a directory not copied. If I add the flag -r, now I'll just look at my directories that I've got here. You can see that I have handed copied over recursively. So that's everything I'm going to show you in this video. Let's have a quick review. So we learned how to use wildcards. We learned how to use things like star, how to combine them to use extensions, or to use star added with a dash to list just directories. We learnt the command man to find the documentation for something. We explored some different options with ls. So here are some of them. -t to show the time when something was, to sort by the time when something was modified. S to sort by size. A small s to show the size. -1 for to list things in a column. R for recursive listing. And G for enabling color options. We then looked at the find command. So this is the format. You do find, you put the starting directory, and then one thing you can do is specify the name, or you could specify a size for files bigger, and there are many other options that you can look up yourself. Then we looked at grep, which allows you to look inside files, and we used the expression with name, and we used the -r option for some recursive searching. And then we looked at using MV to move files, and we looked at CP, including the -r option to copy files. And so that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed my series and that you found these videos useful. If you haven't tried the game Adventures in Wonderland, use the link below this video. It's a great way to practice these skills.